other kind of complicated and strict rules that the industry would have to follow. And that was considered by the crypto world. I mean, it wasn't literally a trading ban, but it was considered to be a sort of existential threat to the industry in the United States. And crypto entrepreneurs started moving offshore to some degree, and there was a legitimate kind of flight from the United States that was happening. But now that's being reversed, and the government's embracing crypto, and it's just sort of hard to imagine that there could be some sort of movement toward a ban.
We also get this email from Mike who says, I'm a graduate student at Millersville University in Pennsylvania. I was wondering, how do you think the Trump administration's emphasis on cryptocurrency will impact the average American working paycheck to paycheck? Maria, I mean, this is part of our weekly series where we try to cut through the political noise to get to why these issues actually matter for people. So your thoughts?
I think it'll make it, for better or for worse, it'll make it a lot easier for the average American to invest in crypto of any kind, whether it's the meme coins that we started talking about, whether it's more established financial instruments. And I just think that the average American is going to have to be even more careful about what they invest in. And, it's homework. It doesn't, I don't enjoy, spending too much time thinking about like what I put my retirement savings in. But I think with the loosening of guardrails, it's going to be even more incumbent on people to really be aware of the risks, the potential upsides, but also the risks of crypto.
I want to end where we started and talk about the potential for open corruption here in the White House. David, real quick, if I'm a millionaire with business before the federal government and I bought a couple $1 million in Trump coin, would anyone ever know about it?
Not necessarily. The crypto industry loves to talk about its transparency, and in some ways it is transparent. Every transaction that happens in the crypto world is visible on the blockchain. You can see people exchanging the money, but the identities behind those transactions are cloaked in anonymity. So you don't know the name of the person who, bought $1 million worth of the Trump coin, and you don't know if that person maybe has some personal reason to want to get closer to Trump.
Well, we'll leave the conversation there for now. That's David Yaffe-Bellany, technology reporter for the New York Times, Maria Aspen, financial correspondent for NPR, and of course, 1A's Todd Zwillich. Some breaking news here. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has said, following a phone call with President Trump this morning, the two have agreed to put tariffs on hold for a month. Listen for more details in the newscast or at npr.org. Today's producer was Alexandra Botti. This program comes to you from WAMU, part of American University in Washington, distributed by NPR. I'm Jen White. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again tomorrow. This is 1A.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks to help NPR produce programming that meets the highest standards of public service in journalism and cultural expression. From Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people. And from the William T. Grant Foundation, supporting research to improve the lives of young people at wtgrantfdn.org.
I'm Michelle Martin at NPR and this station. Our goal is not to please the people we cover or to create the appearance of balance. Nope. Our mission, simply put, is to present the facts as best we know them as completely as we can. So help us bring you the whole story. Please donate to this station today.
Visit WVTF.org and click the donate button.
So all of that is swirling around the conversation about DeepSeek because We have just accelerated the AI race again, and now it is not just American companies competing with each other over who is in the lead of that race. China has also stepped in.
I'm Natalie Kitroeff. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
Every weekday at 6:30 on Radio IQ.
You're listening to Radio IQ on WVTF Roanoke, WRIQ Charles City Richmond, WVTU Charlottesville, WVTW Charlottesville, WVTR Marion, WISE FM Wise, WQIQ Spotsylvania, WIUR Lexington, WEHC Emory, HD3 of WURV Richmond, and on 92.5 Richmond and 94.9 Fredericksburg. Radio IQ, a listener-supported community service of Virginia Tech, on your smart speaker and online at radioiq.org.
We're kicking off our yearly tradition of letting you choose the topics on the show, and we start with a conversation about an American icon. From WAMU and NPR in Washington, this is 1A. Hi, I'm Jen White. David Lynch died last month. He was 78 years old.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We began our meeting this morning at 9 o'clock. We've been in closed session. We're now going to conduct our interviews for the three city council applicants, and then we will be returning to closed session, and following the 2 o'clock session, we will also be returning to closed session. When we are done with all of the closed sessions, we will come out and certify the closed meeting. All right? All right, so today we are considering three candidates to fill the unexpired term of office of Joseph L. Cobb ending December 31st, 2026. Those candidates are Kathy S. Cohen, Evelyn Powers, and Patricia White Boyd. We've allowed 30 minutes for each of those interviews. The process will be like this. Each interview, as I said, will last approximately 30 minutes. Each candidate will have about 2 minutes to share any opening remarks, any introductory remarks. Following those opening remarks, each candidate will be asked 6 questions. Each of us on the dais, each council member will ask a question, and you'll have time to answer each of those questions. If there are any questions of clarification, we may ask those of you. Following that question answer period, each candidate will have an opportunity, a couple minutes, to offer any closing remarks that you'd like to share, any additional information. And then once the interview has been completed, the candidate will be invited to leave, and we'll hear from the next candidate. And then we'll consider all of the information we've received from the candidates in closed session. Does council members, any of you have any questions? And I want to clarify that the candidates don't have to leave if they don't want to. They can stay, but it's because these are open to the public. All right. Well, first of all, we'd like to welcome Rabbi Kathy Cohen. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I know most of you, but I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction for those of you who I don't know quite as well as others. I came to the Roanoke area in 1996 to serve as the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel with 3 very small children in tow, all of whom have grown up here and who have left the area. And that's important because one of the things I want to discuss with you is how we can make sure that our children stay in this area and what we can do for our city to have it become a place where our children want to stay here and have their families here. I believe strongly in building a vibrant, safe, and healthy city through community involvement and bringing people who would generally not know each other together. I believe that by developing an atmosphere of collaboration and teamwork across the city, we will continue to improve our amazing community and build greater excitement and engagement in both our city activities and in the future of our city. A little bit about what I have been involved with through the city. For the past year, I have been the chairperson of the Gun Violence Prevention Commission. I have been on the commission since its inception. As part of the commission, I spearheaded the initial gun locks purchase and distribution to Roanoke City Schools, where in its initial phase, we distributed 8,000 gun locks across the city. And I'm thrilled to say that since we started that program, there has not been one child who has been accidentally shot by a gun. And I think that, you know, you can't prove a negative, but I think that it's been a phenomenal program, and I'm glad it's continuing. I also created what was called the Reading Buddies program, first at Westside Elementary School and then at Lincoln Terrace School. And this program was based on research saying that children who are not reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade have a significantly greater likelihood of ending up being either a victim or a perpetrator of gun violence. So to help those children was very important, especially in the aftermath of the pandemic when so many of them had fallen behind. In its initial phase, I was on the Equity and Empowerment Advisory Board until City Council figured out I couldn't be on 2 boards at once. But that was a wonderful experience. And as part of that, I chaired the Breaking the Cycle of Poverty Subcommittee. And based on the City Plan 2040, I brought together 12 to 14 members of the community as part of the subcommittee. And we gave 10 very concrete suggestions based on the outline in the City 2040 plan as to how to move forward to meet the objectives. I attended and graduated from Roanoke City's Leadership College, which was a wonderful way to further understand how the city operates and city government. I have worked very strongly towards regional partnership and created an organization that brought together 75 diverse people from the city, the county, and Salem in order to address issues of hatred and the ways that together we could combat and prevent it. This group met for a year. Unfortunately, I then had some health issues, but I plan to rekindle it shortly after I retire, which thankfully will be in a few months. I have worked to ease the burden of those experiencing homelessness through serving on the board and as the chair of Family Promise. I was the chair and a participant of the Roanoke Area Ministers Conference. I have served on the committee of the Voices of Faith to bring together Roanoke area residents of varied backgrounds at 6 different dinners over the course of a year. I have served on the RAM board. I was a member of the long-term planning committee of Roanoke City Public Schools called Destination 2030. Unfortunately, Mayor Cobb and I worked together many years ago to create an interfaith service for our entire community after the tragic deaths of Adam Ward and Allison Parker, who were the WDBJ-7 news cameraman and correspondent who were murdered at Smith Mountain Lake. For 3 years, I have served as an interview for the Virginia Tech School of Medicine with their mini interviews. And I have worked continuously over the past 20 years to bring together the Jewish and Black communities through joint dinners, services, and a Martin Luther King concert. And I have likewise brought together the Jewish and Muslim communities through meals and study. I am deeply honored to have just found out that I will be receiving this May the NAACP Lifetime Achievement Award. And that's really very important to me. Through all of these activities, I have met wonderful people and have quickly come to love Roanoke City. I believe that this city is a place with tremendous potential, and I seek this position because I believe that my experiences on a wide variety of area boards, as well as my proven leadership skills of bringing the community together for the betterment of all, will bring a different and fresh perspective to our city. Additionally, as Council has correctly attempted to reflect the diversity of our community, I represent a religious diversity that has been absent from Council for some time. My ultimate goal is to work together with you as a team to create a vibrant, inclusive community where everyone has access to equitable resources, opportunities, and a safe environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. So we'll begin our questions now, and Councilman Nash is going to ask our first question.
Thank you for joining us. My first question is, what is your greatest skill and how will it help Council serve Roanoke?
Thank you. I would say my greatest skill is communication. That comes, quite honestly, as being a member of the clergy and being paid to talk for the last 36 years. I feel strongly that over the past 20 years that I have been closely watching Council has done some phenomenal things. But the communication has not always been as great as the actions. So I believe that I have a strong facility in communication, and I think that that is something that will benefit the Council.
Thank you.
Rabbi Cohen, how do you understand your role as a city council member in relationship to the council and with city administration and staff?
In relationship to the Council, first and foremost, I think it's very important that everyone work together as a team. Council needs to be diverse. It needs to represent diverse qualities within the community. Council, behind closed doors, needs to disagree with each other to extract the wisdom that each person brings to the conversation. And then when a decision is made, to support one another unequivocally. That is the way I have always worked with the board of my congregation, and I think that presenting a united front whenever possible is very important. In terms of our city administration and city employees, to me, from the city manager to the secretaries, to the people who make sure that this building is sparkling clean, each and every one of them deserves tremendous respect and to be treated with integrity, and to know that the council appreciates their work, and that to every extent possible, the council has their back.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rabbi Cohen.
Good morning.
How will you work to promote empowerment and reduce inequity among marginalized groups within our city?
Thank you so much. I love that question. Having served on the Empowerment and the Equity and Empowerment Advisory Board, even when I was on the board, I got those two words out of order all the time. I really came to understand the wide variety of people in our community who are marginalized and who really need our help. And I believe that that community changes on a regular basis. Just maybe a week or two ago, I emailed Mayor Cobb and said, I'm very, very concerned about our undocumented residents, and what are we going to do to provide as much legal safety net as possible for these people who give so much to our community. And so I think first and foremost, we have to always be able to identify who those people are at any given time who are marginalized. We have a certain population who unfortunately has experienced generational poverty, and I think that we must always do everything we can to break that cycle, and whether that is through educational offerings, whether it is through better housing, whether it is through vocational training, whatever it is that we can do to break that cycle for families, I think is the responsibility of our council and is to the betterment of our city. I will be honest with you, I could go on and on answering this question. I don't think you want me to talk too much longer.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rabbi Cohen. Could you please give an example of a time when you worked collaboratively with the public on an initiative that improved their quality of life?
Absolutely. So I've already mentioned it, but the one that I'd like to bring forward is the Reading Buddies program. So this actually began during the pandemic, and I reached out, and initially we had about 45 readers, and we worked with the principal at Westside Elementary School and identified 45 students in the 3rd and 4th grade who would benefit the most from having an adult role model read with them. And it was difficult because we were on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and sometimes it was hard to get the children on, sometimes it was hard for the volunteer to get on. So that first year was very challenging, but we made it through. The second year, we were asked by Roanoke City Schools to move the program and be in person at Lincoln Terrace Elementary School. And we had 37 volunteers that year, and we coordinated with the school system and with people. The volunteers were amazing. They came from all over the city, literally all 4 quadrants, and worked with, I believe, 62 children, and through the Gun Violence Prevention Commission, we were able to buy some special books for the children, At the end of the year, having gotten the children excited about reading, we were able to have each child pick out a book from the book fair that they wanted to have as their own book to take home for the summer. And it was it was just wonderful. It was really collaboration across the city to benefit the children.
Thank you very much.
Rabbi Cohen, thank you for taking the time today. How do you work with individuals who disagree with you to come to equitable resolutions?
Thank you. I think first and foremost, when you disagree with somebody, 90% of the time you can find common ground just by sitting down and talking, sort of removing the defensiveness and saying, here is where I stand on this issue. Let me understand where you stand on this issue. Is there a place where we can come together? And so I believe that communication is really very, very important. All of us at times get exhausted. All of us at times will, just come to that point of going, and need to step back. And so I think that stepping back, taking a little bit of time, and then making the commitment to talk with the person with whom you might have a difference and working together and finding that common ground, I have found that almost always that can resolve differences.
Thank you.
Rabbi Cohen, in your opinion, what are the city's top priorities in the next 1 to 3 years, and how would you work to address them?
So right now, I think the most important priority is our housing shortage and the rising cost of our housing. And I think that we really need to be laser focused on this. I think it's very important for a number of reasons. First, Carillion is gifting us 2 more major hospital wings. But with that will come a lot more people wanting to live in the area. And we don't want to lose the opportunity of having those people live in Roanoke City and looking at outlying areas. We would like them to be here with us. So I think that we really need to look at housing. I think that the rezoning reform, though controversial, I think is the beginning of that. And that we also need to be very creative and to look at other opportunities, including looking at homes that are currently empty, homes that may be in very poor condition, and finding ways to rehab those homes, and really doing everything we can to increase the housing market, and at the same time decreasing our carbon footprint. So I think both of those are really very important for housing. Having been the chair of the Gun Violence Prevention Commission and watching with great joy a close to 50, actually a slightly larger than 50% reduction in violent crime last year, I know that part of this is because of our new policing method. Part of it is also because of the tremendous amount of work the commission did and the programs that we put in place. Those programs cost money. And I happen to believe that they cost less than the psychological and physical cost of one death. And so I think that they're absolutely worth the money, but we need to continue to fund and watch very closely that our gun violence and violent crimes remain low. I think we need to do the same thing with our overdoses and drug problems. We have made phenomenal gains there, moving from being the second worst in Virginia to not even being in the top 10 worst, which is a very bizarre way of saying that. But it's phenomenal. And again, those take programs, and those programs cost money, and we need to continue to be laser focused on those things. And finally, I think that we really need to continually address the issue of poverty. Our city has a very high percentage of those who live below the poverty line or right at the poverty line. And I think we need to work collaboratively and creatively to find ways to lift people up.
Thank you, Rabbi. Those are all of our questions. Does anybody have any questions of clarity on anything? Okay. So this is your time for any closing remarks that you'd like to share, or any follow-up you want to do on any of the questions we asked.
Okay, thank you. So as I thought about the possibility of joining you, I wanted to think about what would be the key qualities that would be important for a member of City Council to have. And for me, and those qualities which I believe not only are important in general, but I think that are important in my life, they would be the following. One would be communication skills. Two would be a sense of integrity and transparency. Three, community engagement. Four, problem-solving skills. Five, collaboration and teamwork. Six, vision and leadership. And seven, flexibility. And by flexibility, what I mean there is all too often, it's great to come up with the answer to a problem, to go out and to initiate that problem-solving technique and then find out it doesn't work. And so I think we always need to have the ability to come back to the table and to say, where did we go wrong, and what is a different way to approach this particular problem? I will share with you, and one of the questions I'm surprised that you didn't ask, because I've been asked in every interview in my life, is what are my strengths and weaknesses? And you only asked the strength question, which I appreciate, but I'll share with you my weaknesses as well. I am a visionary. That has always been my leadership style. You know, and there's a statement that I sometimes say about people I work with that they can't see the forest through the trees. I'm the opposite. I see the forest, but sometimes I miss the trees. I'm not particularly detail oriented. That's both a strength and a weakness. I had the opportunity through several different things that I did with the city to work with Bob Cowell several times. And I would come to him with ideas, and several times he would look at me and he would say, well, that's a great vision. And I knew exactly what he meant. And so, you know, I want you to know that that's who I am, that I see the larger picture, and that I sometimes need people to say, but here are the details that make that larger picture a little bit more difficult. The other thing that you know, I wanted to share with you is that I have not served on council. I have not been employed by the city. But I have, for 20 years almost regularly, watched city council meetings. I have addressed city council a number of times. I have a pretty strong facility for understanding how the council works. In terms of finances, I understand the city budget. I have looked at it a number of times, and I am comfortable with the fiduciary responsibility of the council and overseeing that, and also understanding that it is not the council's role to write the budget, that's what the treasurer is for. And it is not the council's role to physically distribute the money. That is what the finance department is for. And so I want you to know that though I haven't been in those positions, I am confident that I understand how these things work, and that I could very quickly get up to speed to work with you. And I would appreciate you considering me as a candidate. I think that we are at a very, very exciting time in our city, and I would love to be a part of helping you on council to carry that forward. And I think moving forward is always the direction we should go.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for applying for the vacancy and for your time today. We're grateful.
Thank you to each of you. Thank you.
If anybody needs a quick break or anything, now's the time. Madam Clerk, do we know if our next candidate is here? Okay, great. She is. Welcome, Ms. Powers. We're just waiting on one person to get back, and then we'll get started. Morning. Morning. So while we're waiting on the other council member to return, the process is basically this. We're going to allow you some time to just introduce yourself, tell us whatever you'd like about yourself, and then each of us has a question that we'll ask you, and you'll have the time you need to answer those questions. And then you'll have a time at the end to just offer any closing remarks, or if there's any additional information you want to share about any of the questions, that'll be a good time to do that. So as soon as Councilman Volleson gets back, we'll get started. Thank you.
It's a very awkward silence. Does anyone want to?
We need some interlude music here.
Let me see if I can get a good. I don't know. You only got to get a good. Nick,
None for this setting.
Should I sing?
Yeah.
La cucaracha, la cucaracha. That's all I know. I was forced to say it.
Glad I missed that.
All right, so again, welcome, Ms. Powers. We're glad to see you today. Thank you for applying for this vacancy. Now's an opportunity for you just to introduce yourself.
Thank you. First, I want to thank each of you for giving me this opportunity to be here today. I'm honored to be considered for this appointment to City Council. I'm stepping forward because I'm deeply invested in the success of our city, and I believe that my experience, my financial expertise, and commitment to public service make me a good choice for this seat. I've had the privilege of serving this city for 43 years, including the last 20 years as the elected city treasurer. And throughout my career, I have worked diligently to ensure fiscal responsibility, transparency, and strong financial stewardship to our citizens. I understand the complexities of city budget, economic development, and long-term planning, and I have always prioritized making sound financial decisions that benefit our citizens. Beyond my financial background, I have a deep understanding of our city's operations, challenges, and opportunities. I'm committed to addressing key issues such as the city's infrastructure, economic growth, housing issues, public safety, education, and budgeting. And I bring a collaborative, sound, solution-focused approach to governance. I'm not seeking this seat for personal ambition. I'm seeking this out of a sincere commitment to our city. As I've said, I gave you 43 years of my life. I want to continue building on progress that we've made, tackle the challenges ahead, and work alongside fellow council members to ensure a strong and sustainable future for our city. Again, I thank you for this time and for this consideration and the opportunity to earn your trust in this appointment.
Thank you so much. Mr. Nash, you want to ask the first question?
Thank you for joining us. My question is, what is your greatest skill and how will it help council serve Roanoke?
Well, I think one of my greatest skills that I have is the ability to listen to people. You know, when I came to this city, I was a 23-year-old young student just out of school, had worked at the bank. I had the opportunity there to work with some very fine people that taught me about trust. I mean, working in the bank, you're dealing with people's money, with their finances, and the commitment to what you put into work is what the successes that you get out of it. So I was very fortunate to that. However, back in those days, banking was facing a lot of mergers, and at that time my husband worked for a bank, I worked for a bank, we were young, just bought a house. I knew one of us needed to get into somewhere to where we wouldn't have to be faced with two of us maybe losing our job at the same time. So I was fortunate to come to work for the city in the internal audit department. Again, there I worked with some incredible people that taught me about trust and about ensuring how to get along with people, how to collaborate. And this is a city where we all need to work together to bring good financial sound decisions so that our citizens are faced with opportunities to help them grow.
Thank you.
Ms. Powers, how do you understand your role as a city council member in relationship to the council and with city administration and staff?
Again, collaboration, getting along. I respect each of you sitting up there. All 6 of you have skills and knowledge that I don't have. I have skills and knowledge that you don't have. But we can work together alongside each other to pull those knowledges together to make good, sound financial decisions and to bring back and have trust in our government. I learned that as a city treasurer. You know, when people came in with the challenges of being late making a payment and being faced with a 10% penalty, there were times and there are code sections where we can waive that penalty, but there are times when we can't. And I understand that. But what I did was sit down with those people and say, okay, how did you get here? Let's help you so that you don't get there again. But I've listened. I was never too good to roll up my sleeves and do the same thing in that office that I asked my staff to do, to build trust alongside my staff. I've had a great opportunity here. Don't get me wrong. I've had a great career. I've worked with a lot of city managers, a lot of council members. I've worked on a lot of city campaigns, and I've always tried to respect everybody's opinion because that's only when we can work together that we gain the strength and the trust from our citizens.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Powers. How will you work to promote empowerment and reduce inequity among marginalized groups within the city?
Sure, and I had the opportunity to deal with every citizen in our city, and I think it's important that we build on those relationships, that we look for ways that we can bring things together to help them. For example, I worked alongside Freedom First Bank. They brought together an education system to help people take that course so that they could get a loan to, whether it was to pay delinquent taxes or to pay other things so that they wouldn't get behind on taxes. So I always looked for opportunities that I could do to help promote citizens in our city. And not only just our citizens, but our staff. When I hired people in my office, I always made sure that I hired people that had the skills and the knowledge to do the job. Because if I didn't, I was not doing those people a favor if they couldn't do their job. And I didn't ever want to put people in that situation. I always looked for ways that I could help them grow. And one of the things that I always said to my staff is, don't be afraid to come and talk to me about growth. While I hated to lose my good employees, but it was my job to help them grow. So I always made sure that they had the training that they needed, that they got the education training and the skills to continue to grow here at the city, to be long-term city employees for not just my department, but another city department.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Powers. Could you please give an example of a time when you worked collaboratively with the public on an initiative that improved their quality of life?
Sure. When we were putting in the tax and treasury system, one of the things that we did is that we worked alongside our city attorney's office, and we looked at every single state and city code that affected our taxes. And I knew that some of, especially in our business area, in the meals tax, people were really complaining about how that penalty was assessed. It was assessed a 10%, a 5%, a 5%, up to 25% if you continued to be late with the same month. And it really put people in a really bad bind. But it wasn't consistent with the way we handled the rest of our taxes, real estate, personal property, in the business area. So we sat down with the attorney's office. I did some research with other localities, and we came up with a solution to mirror that tax and that penalty the same way with the rest of the business taxes. And we were able to look at personal property taxes and real estate taxes and say, how can we help these people that come in one day and have a late penalty? And guess what? We did a 2% sliding scale. Again, I collaborated with the city manager's office, our city attorney's office, and we sat down together and came up with these ideas. And it's worked. You have no idea how happy taxpayers were that coming in the day after, that they have a $20 penalty now and not a $200 penalty. So it gave them the hope that we really were listening to them. So working alongside the rest of the city, and I've had a great relationship with all of our city departments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Bowers, good to see you again. How do you work with individuals who disagree with you to come to equitable resolutions?
Well, that's a hard thing to do, and I agree that that's something that, we all face. One thing is, I'm a data person, and I like to look at the data, and I like to have my facts. So I like to sit down with people and hear, why are we having this situation? Maybe there's something that that I don't know that would convince me otherwise. But just pulling all the facts together, bringing people together and listening is what I like to do. And I've never been too busy to not be available. One of the things I take great pride in when I was in the treasurer's office is I knew that during the lunch hour, that's when people come in, because they work. So I tried to make sure that I didn't take lunch at the normal hours. I'd eat at my desk, but I made myself available to our taxpayers because I wanted them to know that I cared and I wanted to hear what they had to say so that we're not in a situation to where we do have those disadvantages. But I think having the data before people, and if we can explain why we have our feelings and why we're making decisions, while they may not be happy, a lot of times, believe me, I know this, people left Okay, I didn't get my penalty waived, but guess what? She listened. They walk out the door with the payment plan, and they're happy.
Thank you. Last question. Ms. Powers, in your opinion, what are the city's top priorities in the next 1 to 3 years, and how would you work to address them?
Sure, that's a great question. So, of course, I think the biggest thing that we're faced with always every year is our city budget. I think one thing that we need to do, I'll go back to 35 years ago. When I worked in internal audit, I was the secretary to the audit committee. So it's July 1, we've done the budget, approved the budget. It's July 1, so we go through July, we go through August, we go through September, it's October. And we sit down with the director of finance, the assistant director of finance, the auditor, the manager of management and budget, the treasurer and the commissioner, and we went through what's working, what's not working. Are there any surprises that have come up in these 3 months? Percentage-wise, where are we with the biggest departments that use the most budget? And so we didn't have any surprises, so we stayed on that. I think we need to get back to things like that. We do have a housing issue. I think we need to look at that. I was faced with that as your treasurer. We did tax sales. We have a lot of boarded up properties. I think we need to look at that. I was already working with a group that wanted to come in and get information from the city to work with financial people that were ready to come in and work with these people that own the boarded up properties and see what can we do? What kind of incentives can we offer those people to sell those properties to an investor to get that property back on the rolls and not let it sit there boarded up? So yes, we need to identify what makes up affordable housing. Infrastructure, I know we've got a situation we're faced with Roanoke City Schools needing more space now, so we need to address those. And I think one thing we need to do is we need to look at how do we bring these neighborhood services, these neighborhoods back into our city. So I've had an idea of a citizens council to where we work with them to find out what is your greatest concerns about the city and start getting these things on the list to work with.
Thank you. So this is your time to just share any additional information you'd like. It could be
Sure.
in reference to any of the questions we asked or any additional information you'd like to share with us.
Well, in my years of service with the city, I spent a lot of time on a lot of committees. I've worked outside of the city of Roanoke. I worked with Miss Virginia pageant for over 30 years. Of course, it left Roanoke and went to Lynchburg, so that really ended. I worked with the United Way as an executive loan. I've worked on the finance committee, the budget committee, the ITC committee. Myself and another employee that is now retired put together the very first administrative policies and procedures manual for the city. That was a great opportunity, and working in internal audit where I had been in basically every city department doing audits, I had that knowledge and skills to do that. Outside again is the city of the Treasurers Association. I was the president of the Treasurers Association, the first vice president, the second vice president, the treasurer. I've worked on the Education Insight Committee. I worked on the education curriculum. The city of Roanoke and the city of Chesapeake, we noticed that in investments, it was very hard for localities to really find local banks that would give us good interest to earn that was liquid. A lot of these smaller localities in the city of Roanoke, we're not small, but we had the need to keep our money liquid. So we came up with an idea to work with VML VACO Finance to do a Virginia investment pool. We needed 2 localities to do that, and the city of Roanoke, I talked with our council, they were excited about it. So the city of Roanoke and the city of Chesapeake were the 2 localities that formed that. That went live in 2014, and we were able to invest our liquid assets, our funds, to be able to give back to the city quickly our funds. I served as the vice chair of that committee from 2014 to the day I retired. That position is a position that is elected by the people that are members of that committee. So I was very fortunate that these people trusted me that I could help lead that. And that organization now has over $1 billion of assets in it. So it's been great for our locality. So I pride myself in stuff like that. But in closing, again, I just want to give you the opportunity to be here today before you. It's a great honor. And I'm deeply honored to be standing here. But I want to reiterate my commitment to serving the city with the same dedication, integrity, and fiscal responsibility that has guided my career for over 4 decades. With 43 years of experience in municipal finance, 20 of those, again, as your elected treasurer, I do understand the complexities of this city, of our operations, of our budgeting, and of our long-term financial planning. I have accountability and responsible stewardship of the public funds, and I was honored to have that. I never took that position lightly. That experience has given me a deep appreciation for the balance between fiscal discipline and making strategic investments that improve the quality of life for our citizens. Beyond my financial expertise, I bring a deep passion for this community. I've built relationships across departments, businesses, and neighborhoods, and I know how to collaborate. I know how to listen and make informed decisions that reflect the needs of our residents. My priority will always be what's best for the people of this city. Ensuring sustainable growth, economic vitality, great budgeting, and strong city services. I'm ready to step into this role immediately, bringing my experience and my steady hand to this council. I appreciate your time and consideration, and I look forward to the opportunity. But one thing I want to leave you with is I am not a person that wants to be up there to make myself look great. I want to be up there alongside each of you to make you look great and to make our city look great. That's what I've always tried to do. And I go back to 20 years ago when I had the opportunity to apply for the appointment to get to be the next city treasurer. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but our city treasurer at that time left with 2 years on his term. And they did the same thing. They did this interview like this. And I was fortunate enough to get it. The one thing I told all 7 of them that night is if I'm fortunate to get this appointment, I will never let you down. I'll be there for you. I don't want to be up there being a grandstander trying to make it about me. It's not about me. It's about 7 people sitting in that seat, those seats up there, with the knowledge and the skills to bring great governance to this city. And I thank you for this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Powers. Thank you for applying. Thank you for giving your time today and responding to our questions. We're really grateful.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, all the council people use their microphones when they ask the questions.
Yeah, I believe we have been, but we can make a point to make sure we're leaning into our microphones. Okay? Sure. All right, our next interview's at 12, so if anybody needs a little break, I'll be back. Okay, we just need a couple minutes, yeah.
joked like during the campaign with a couple of people that we should do, like especially when we motivate, like get some of those extremely hot stuff and take one and see how well we can talk to voters. Hot ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I have those salsa.
I have some of their last stab with stuff that's super hot. And it's good for like 5 minutes and then it just dies.
Good morning, Miss White Boyd.
Good afternoon.
I guess it is afternoon, isn't it? It's good to see you. So this afternoon, we're going to, first of all, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
We're going to allow you some time to just introduce yourself, then each of us will have a question for you, and then at the end, you'll have a time to just reflect on any of the questions and share any additional information or have any closing remarks.
Okay, thank
All
you so
right.
much.
So welcome.
Well, thank you. Well, good afternoon, Mayor Cobb, Vice Mayor McGuire, Madam Clerk, Ms. Turner, good to see you, and of course, Mr. City Attorney, Tim Spencer. I am really, really grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to serve the residents of Roanoke City again. Most of you know me, but for those that don't, I live in Roanoke City, and I've been here for 40 years. I moved from Florida. I came here in October of 1984, and we all know how beautiful it is in October with the leaves changing and everything and all the colors. And I fell in love with Roanoke City. I married my husband, Colbert. We have 2 sons and 2 grandsons, and I have 5 stepdaughters. And I have a small business that I've been running for the last 20 years as the administrator of Blue Ridge Senior Services. I've served the last 6 years on Roanoke City Council, and 2 of those years as vice mayor. I am in various organizations that focus on public service and the community. I am excited about the possibility of serving the remainder of Mayor Cobb's term because I've only been away just a short time, maybe a month and a half or so, and I am in a unique position to step in and join you guys to continue the hard work and address the needs of this city. Everyone on the dais, I know, want the same thing. We all want what is best for Roanoke City. And I want what is best for this city, right? We want a vibrant city where we can all live, work, play, and prosper. And that is why I'm standing before you this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nash is going to ask our first question.
Thank you for joining us. What is your greatest skill, and how will it help council serve Roanoke?
Well, I would say, you know, I'm a good communicator, so I would say communications, but I think I will go, if you say skill, you want one, because I was going to list a few, I would say tenacity. Folks call me Tenacious Trish, because I am determined to do what needs to be done. If there's something that has to be done, like they say, that old cliche, where there's a will, there's a way. Just like when we renamed the plaza to Lax Plaza. And I said, well, you know, now we need a statue to go on there. And I reached out to the community, and with my tenacity, we were able to raise over $180,000 in less than a year to build that statue for Henrietta Lacks. That was really something that I really wanted to see happen. So I was tenacious enough to continue to work with the community. It was a public-private partnership, and we raised the money to do that. Even when I ran for Senate, you know, a lot of my friends said, you don't really want to do that because you're going to need a lot of money to run for state Senate, and you do. But I was determined, and I raised $500,000 in Roanoke City. Now, that may not sound like a lot for a big city, but that is a lot in Roanoke City because I was determined. I wanted to be able to do that. I wanted to go to Richmond and represent the constituents in Southwest Virginia. So I was determined to raise that money to do that. And I'm just a determined person. If there's something that needs to happen or something we need to do, I find ways to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. White-Boyd, how do you understand your role as a city council member in relationship to the council and with city administration and staff?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Volleson. Well, I've served on council for 6 years, and I truly believe that it's essential that we cultivate relationships and work as a team. We have to work as a team. I do believe that Mayor Cobb was elected as our leader, and I think that he is the one that guides the ship, right? I think we have to work as a team guided by our mayor, and we have to remember our mandate, right? We have to remember why we are here. We are not elected for quadrants, northwest, southwest, southeast. We are elected at large, and we have to remember that in relationship to our responsibility to this city. And we have to remember that Mayor Cobb, we're a weak form of mayor government, right? Not that Mayor Cobb is a weak mayor, but that is our form of government. And we are a city manager, city council, city manager form of government. And it is our job to work as a team to empower the city manager and her team to do what they need to do. And that means creating ordinances or resolutions, whatever it is that we need to do as a team to make sure that our city manager has the tools that she needs. Because we don't make those final small decisions or the big decisions. That is up to the city manager. And I think that a lot of times we forget that that is not our role. I know that former city manager Bob Cowell would say to all of us when we were on council, when I was on council, be careful not to break the city charter, because we think, we need to tell her she needs to do this and she needs to do that. That is not our role. Our role is to give her the tools that she needs in order to govern.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. White-Boyd.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sanchez-Jones.
Can you pull your mic up? Thank you.
I'm sorry. How will you work to promote empowerment and reduce inequity among marginalized groups within the city?
Well, I will say that during my time on council, I served as the chair of the Equity and Empowerment Advisory Board. I asked then Mayor Lee if I could be given the opportunity to serve on that board, and I'm glad that I did. That board had 5 different committees, and one of those committees was breaking the cycle of poverty, service delivery, and trust was even a subcommittee. But, I really got a lot out of service delivery and breaking the cycle, because service delivery, during that time, we had a system that when you called in, you only heard English. And I'm sure, Ms. Sanchez-Jones, you can appreciate this. But during those meetings in that subcommittee, service delivery, they determined that we needed to be able to have different languages so that our residents could access those services in over 100 different languages. The number keeps changing, but at one time it was over 125. And so I think that was really important coming out of equity and empowerment. Breaking the cycle of poverty, the same thing. I think it was important that we heard from our committee on ways to break the cycle of poverty. It was something simple as bus passes, getting free bus passes to certain groups, and the flex hours from GRTC that you have now done with GRTC in your leadership, Mayor Cobb. And also, greenlining came out of equity and empowerment. And because of that, we had the vision to create the zoning with all of its faults, and I know it needs improvement, but still overall a very good thing that we did for the city of Roanoke, which will help with our housing shortage as well, and breaking that cycle of poverty.
Good afternoon, Ms. White-Boyd.
Good afternoon.
Could you please give us an example of a time when you worked collaboratively with the public on an initiative that improved their quality of life?
I am in various organizations, Vice Mayor McGuire, and I'm in those organizations for a reason. I am in my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and our focus is on giving back, especially to the black community. I'm in the Links Incorporated, the same thing, we give back. Delta Sigma Theta, I will say, we just had a forum last week, and I see my chair here. We just had a forum last week on human trafficking. Those are the sorts of things that we do in these organizations. I know people think they're social clubs. No, they are not. We work. In fact, I worked 8 hours this past Saturday for Delta Sigma Theta. The Links Incorporated, last week, I was with former council member Anita James Price. We were at Hurt Park Elementary teaching the students there. We had little miniature teeth, how to brush their teeth and how to take care of them. Those are the things that we do in the organizations that I'm in. I'm a new member of Roanoke Women's Foundation. What we do is pool our resources together, our finances together, so that they can give back to the community with different groups that are in need of financial assistance. I'm also a member of the NAACP, a lifetime member, and you all know what they do. I was PTA president for a number of years. I join organizations where I can give back. That is one of the main reasons that I ran for city council, because I saw a way to be able to give back to the community to make lives better.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How do you work with individuals who disagree with you to come to equitable resolutions?
Well, that is a great question. I will say, and I smile and I laugh because I had just flashback of conversations we've had in that back room. And you say heated, I mean, hot conversations, and it's really challenging. But what we have to do is we have to step back and we have to center ourselves and be calm, because I remember Mayor Lee, all 6 of us would be talking at the same time, and he would say, wait, I can't hear everybody talking at one time. We have to understand that we all have different opinions. We all, are politicians. We campaign on different issues. We have different views, different values, but we have to appreciate what each individual in that room is saying. We have to appreciate it, and we have to understand it, and we have to respect it. That doesn't matter whether you're in church, if you're in a school, if you're on this dais, or in a sorority. It does not matter where you are, but you have to be able to have conversations. But then you have to be able to reach a consensus. You have to be able to come together at some point, whether you give a little here, take a little there. You have to be able to compromise enough to where you can reach the goal. Because if you cannot reach a consensus, whether it's on council or anywhere, you cannot govern. You cannot accomplish anything. And I think it's important, and I've had the experience in doing that. I think that the last council, I felt that we were in a place where we could do that, where we could agree to disagree and continue to move the city forward. And I feel like I know this council well enough to know that if I'm a part of it, that we could continue to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. White-Boyd, last question. In your opinion, what are the city's top priorities in the next 1 to 3 years, and how would you work to address them?
Mayor Cobb, we've got a lot of priorities, so I'll try to keep it kind of condensed. But I think that we've got to have some economic development as one of them. We have a lot going on. We really do. I think we're moving in the right direction. Things are going quite well. We are on the precipice of great things here in Roanoke City. We have development in Southeast Riverdale. I was so pleased to be a part of that. I understand it's going well. We have a development down the street from Ms. Sanchez-Jones in Northeast, 768 apartments. That's a huge complex. Of course, we can appreciate what we're doing in Southwest with Carilion, the expansion, and the new cancer center. The one quadrant that doesn't have a lot of activity is Northwest, and I would love to see something happening in Northwest. Thinking back, and I've been here 40 years, I don't recall any major development in Northwest in several decades. I know we have the new market on Melrose. That's wonderful. That's a great thing. That was a renovation. I would love to see more development around that area now that Goodwill has purchased that land. But I think it's important because we've got to create an environment that is conducive for developers. Because we don't want the developer saying, I don't want to develop in Roanoke City because, there are so many things that impede them from developing. And I know that I heard that while I was on council, that developers just did not want to come. We want Mark Nelson and his staff, we want that phone ringing off the hook. We want it, we want people calling, saying, we want to develop here. What can we do? How can we do it? Because development is important. It creates jobs. It helps with that, breaking the cycle of poverty. It helps with our housing issue. Economic development, I think, is key. It will open up a lot of doors. We certainly have to do something about our public safety, and what you've done, Mayor Cobb and the Gun Violence Prevention Commission, along with Chief Booth, and I also give credit to Sheriff Hash for some of the community programs. What you all have done has really gotten the numbers down, but we will have to continue to work on that as a priority. And I will also say employee compensation. I know that we've done some things. We had a study that went relatively well. Could have been done a little bit differently, but hindsight is 100 and it's always perfect. But I think that if we are not competitive in our compensation, not only will that impact our retention, which we have some wonderful employees here. I met a lot of them, and we have some wonderful employees. We don't want those employees going over to Roanoke City Public Schools, even though that's a part of our city. We just don't want to keep losing them to Roanoke County or to Botetourt County because we are not compensating them the way that they should be compensated. And we have to have these competitive salaries because we want to attract qualified individuals. I know I've spoken with some of the managers, walking the halls and talking to them. They advertise all the time. They have interviews, and they say, we had 10 people apply, but they really weren't what we needed. They really weren't qualified because we're not attracting qualified people. So, to answer your question, Mayor Cobb, I think that it is important that we make sure that we continue to take a look at that. Besides that, economic development is just so important. We've got to have the revenue. We've got budget constraints. You've got to have that revenue. And, of course, public safety. You want people to feel good about moving here. You want people, other businesses to come here, and all of those factors come into play when they look at a city. Thank you.
Thank you. So now's your opportunity to reflect on any of the questions we asked or just any closing remarks you have.
Well, I thought somebody would ask me, why am I running? I just want to say that it's a part of who I am. So, I know 3 of you know me and 3 of you know, maybe you know me and maybe you don't. That's not relevant. But I would like for you to know what kind of cloth I'm made of. So I grew up in the panhandle of Florida, close to Alabama and Georgia, right there it borders. And it was very, very racist. And it was a lot of poor communities in that area. And my father died in the Vietnam War, so my mom was a single mom, but in saying that, I was able to go to college. And my brother was able to go to college because of the fact that he died in the Vietnam War and we could go on the GI Bill. And my mother was able to purchase a home. But there were so many people surrounded by us that were not in that same position. And so I grew up seeing a lot of, poor people, and I was determined. I couldn't even get a job when I was in high school. I was popular enough to get on the cheerleading squad, but I couldn't get a job. So one of the cheerleaders told me, they're hiring at the local drugstore. And I said, okay, I'll go over. I went over to the local drugstore, and they said, no, we're not hiring. Who told you that? And, believe it or not, it's still very similar to that today, unfortunately. And so when I left to go to college, I said, you know what? It would be hard for me to go back and live there, number one. But number two, I would like to be able to help people to move forward. And that's what I did, and that's what I've done my entire career. As soon as I moved here, I got involved with PTA over at Ruffner Middle School at the time. And I've been involved in organizations similar ever since, because to me, I feel a responsibility to make sure that people like me and people around me have an opportunity. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for Roanoke City Council, because I feel like I can communicate with people. I have strong ties in the community, and I can help City Council make those decisions that impact communities that are not empowered, make those connections to make sure that we all have that same opportunity to live in a city where we can work, live, play, and prosper. And so that's who I am. If you know me well enough, you know that that is who I am. And given the opportunity, that will be my focus. And I just want to say thanks again for the opportunity. Thank you for the questions. You guys are a tough group. I know you have a lot on your hands, and I know, and I'm actually very confident that you will make the best decision that you possibly can. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. White Boyd. We appreciate your time today.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again for applying.
Thank you.
Well, again, I want to thank our three applicants today, Rabbi Cohen, Ms. Powers, and Ms. White Boyd, for not only applying, but for the interviews and their response to the questions. To all who applied for this vacancy, we express our gratitude. Council will be in recess until our 2:00 p.m. meeting here in council chambers.